You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year. For all your Mets here, let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home
exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob. How is everybody doing on this Friday night? 2 days before the winter meetings, and we have some news to talk about. There was a pretty, I would say, medium to medium high type of trade that not really necessarily involved the Mets, but it was interesting in the Mets perspective because some people in the stream over the last couple of weeks, about the last week or so, talked about this guy, and now he's off the board. And we're going to start with that. So once again, guys, don't forget to please hit on that like button. Thank you for tuning into the channel and Mets free agent frenzy right here on Talking Mets at Rob on a Friday night. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us tonight. So with that said, the first trade of the day was Mariners acquired Colton Wong from the Brewers for Jesse Winker. and Abraham Toro. So that is the trade that went down about a couple hours ago. And that is something that some people talked about with regards to Jesse Winker, an outfielder. The Mets could have used an outfielder if they don't re-sign Brandon Nimmo. And that is an option that is now off the board trade-wise for the New York Mets. So that is one thing that went down today that could have been of some interest for the New York Mets, and that is Jesse Winker. We all remember Jesse Winker when he was with the Reds, and he was waving at the Met fans after they beat us. So he became a little bit of a folk hero in a weird way. And at the end of the day, he turned out to be a really good guy towards the fans. I know he seemed like not to be a good teammate, whatever that's supposed to mean in the Seattle dugout. So it is what it is. He was a guy that was an all-star in Cincinnati, didn't have a good year in Seattle, so now he finds himself in Milwaukee now. So it was an odd trade because, Colton Wong's a decent player, but he's not really the same player he probably was, with the Cardinals. Excuse me. A couple of years ago. So that's something that it was a little weird to me because I think Jesse Winker can put up the numbers as an all-star. So I think the Brewers did win this trade. But it's basically what you need. And it clearly was the Seattle Mariners did not like him in the clubhouse. So why not just trade him, get something for him? You got an infielder now in the Seattle Mariners in the lineup, and in that situation, why the hell not in that situation? So in both cases, I'm assuming both teams thought it's a win-win, and it's a decent trade for both teams. Also, what went down, and yes, Joseph, I was just about to say that Miguel Castro, obviously former reliever for the Mets, for the Yankees, trade with Joely Rodriguez last offseason, or right before the season started, right before spring training, and Miguel Castro is going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. So that's something that is an arm that if the Mets were potentially looking at him, could have got as well for the bullpen, but he is off the board now as well. And yes, Ken, the Mets are sitting back, but you know what? There's about 26 other teams that basically haven't done anything, right? The Angels started off the offseason going there. So it's kind of important to just realize the fact that the teams that really haven't made big moves yet, signing or trades, are the teams that are in on all the, or at least the big name free agency, the top 5. So again, I really think a lot of these owners and a lot of these teams and a lot of these players are not signing yet until the winter meetings. I think they want this to be a spectacle. Once again, 2019 was the last time the winter meetings happened. So I think Major League Baseball, the players and the owners, they all want to make this a spectacle. They want this to be newsworthy, right? In 2019 and 2018, there wasn't a lot that happened. There were some things that happened, but it was still very slow of a winter meetings, and I don't think baseball wants that again. So that's why I said the last stream that I was with you guys that I think the winter meetings are going to be a lot of fun. And don't worry, guys, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every single day. Sunday from 1 o'clock until 5 o'clock, Monday 1 o'clock until probably 12 o'clock until 5 o'clock, and Tuesday 12 o'clock until 5 o'clock. And then we'll work our way Wednesday and Thursday. I do work, so it's kind of hard to do it that early. So I'll probably do it around 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock or something like that. So it would be constant live streams on the channel from Sunday to Thursday, the whole time that they're at the winter meetings. So we're going to go over everything. This will be, obviously we'll be worried about our Mets, but we'll be seeing what will be going around the league, what big names are signing, what trades are happening, all that fun stuff. So it's going to be a lot of me. It's going to be a lot of you for the next 5 days or so. Tomorrow, I'm going to the Queens Baseball Convention. If you don't know what that is, it's a thing that two Mets fans put together. I think it was like 2013, 2014, around that time. So it's been around for a while. It's been getting bigger and bigger. You know, they got former players to come and sign autographs. They have SNY panels. They have WFAN panels. They have Mets hot stove. All that fun stuff that you're going to see on SNY. Probably on Monday. You're going to see from the Queens Baseball Convention. So I will be there all day Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So there will be no live stream. I am going to do a couple of videos from there. I'm going to try to get one of the players, the older players that are there, the former players. You know, I know Bartolo Colon is supposed to be there. R.A. Dickey's supposed to be there. Howard Johnson, Hojo is supposed to be there. A couple of other guys supposed to be there. Salicata of WFAN. Lori Rubinson of WFAN. I believe a couple of reporters for the Mets and for the newspaper. Sports beat writer, baseball beat writers, and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to try to interview hopefully one of them or two of them just to get things on video and a lot of pictures. So I will be posting it on my community page probably Sunday at some time. So you'll be able to see a couple of videos, a couple of pictures. So it'll be fun to do that as well. So I'll be with you guys for an hour tonight. We'll talk about what's been going down. What are the rumors? What's this? What's that? There was an interesting rumor that, who was it? Michael Marino of Metsmerized talked about on Twitter, which is very interesting and a little worrisome as well. So we'll get to that as well. Jason, I wouldn't say that, buddy. I wouldn't say that. Again, I think too many people are just so consumed about the non-rumors when if you've been paying attention the last couple of years since Steve Cohen took over, the rumors have been few and far between. The rumors haven't been there. There's nothing been leaked out over the last couple of years, right? When the Francisco Lindor trade happened, nobody had any idea until basically a few hours before it went down, right? The Chris Bassett trade, nobody heard about that. The Max Scherzer, nobody heard about that until the last 2 days before it went down, right? All the reports were the Mets had no shot of getting Max Scherzer. And then all of a sudden, a day or two before it happened, all the rumors were saying, oh, the Mets are involved, right? The Marte, the Canna, the Escobar signing, those three right in a row, and it was basically like 10 o'clock at night, and nobody heard about that either, and it went down. And that's the thing that you have to think of, you have to remember, is that there's no leaks coming out of the Mets anymore, right? Of stupid rumors, waste of time rumors. The rumors that are getting out from reporters that you hear them being in on Verlander, Rodon, all the pitchers basically, Senga, deGrom. But you haven't heard nothing about the position players, and mostly the big position players. Don't think that's not strategic by the Mets, all right? And there is no reason why the Mets wouldn't be in on any of the position players that we have been talking about for the last couple of weeks. So what I'm going to read right now, Michael Marino, the tweet that he said this: my understanding is bringing back Jacob deGrom remains the Mets' top priority. If it was up to them, they'd take Jake over Justin Verlander, Rodon, Senga. Question remains, if there's another suitor that's willing to match the Mets would pay him. Doubt exists that other suitors like Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and the Dodgers. So that's the thing that is that was the tweet by Michael Marino. So the point of this tweet is that these reporters are reaching at this moment right now, guys, and you have to understand that they have no news or no leaks that are coming from the Mets. So they're coming up with stuff like, why would Jacob deGrom? Obviously, the Mets are making him a priority. We know this, right? We know that if Jacob deGrom goes elsewhere, the Mets are going to pivot to either Justin Verlander or Carlos Rodon. We know that. It's obvious they're going to get one of them. That's not a shock. Whoever keeps on reporting the same nonsense and believing all these rumors, all these little tidbits that they put in their tweets and in their reporting is not really paying attention of what the Mets have been doing the last 2 years. All right, we have to completely understand that there's no leaks coming from the Mets themselves. And I would be shocked. Like, you haven't heard the Mets talk to any of the shortstops. You haven't heard them talk to Aaron Judge. Again, we don't know if they have and they haven't. They will let you know. Again, if it was really, really important, like, do you really think the Yankees haven't spoke to anybody but Judge, right? That's all you've heard of every reporter, that the Yankees are 100% in on Judge. Well, duh. I mean, obviously. But why haven't you heard them in on any other free agent available? There is a thing called Zoom nowadays, right? You don't have to, there's not reporters anymore standing around Citi Field or any ballpark in America, standing around to see if any player or agent walks into the stadium like it used to be before COVID, right? Now they can do Zoom meetings that nobody knows about except for the player, the agent, and the team. So that's something that you have to look at as well the last couple of years. But the one thing the Mets have been good at is keeping things under wrap. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just because as fans, we don't hear it, we get mad that the Mets aren't doing anything, right? Last year was the same thing in the beginning, right? Before anything, right? Before Noah Syndergaard did not take the qualifying offer, before Steven Matz used the Mets to get the Cardinals to give a little bit more money and went to the Cardinals, right? We heard nothing. We heard the same crowd. Oh, Noah Syndergaard wants the qualifying offer. The Mets are interested in Steven Matz. We heard nothing about Max Scherzer, right? We heard a couple of reporters say the Mets have no chance and are not interested in Max Scherzer. We've heard that, right? We didn't hear anything about the Bassett trade, anything about the Marte Escobar Canna signing. We didn't hear none of that stuff. And I think people forget that rather quickly because they're so frustrated that there's nothing out there, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And just because these reporters are coming up with nonsense tweets like this that we just got. Now, I think Michael Marino is a very good reporter. I think he's pretty good. There's obviously other reporters that are pretty good, but they're reaching right now. They have no stories to tell. So they're bored. They need content. They need eyes on their platform, and that's what they're doing. So I think, like I said, we're hearing, we saw a trade. We're hearing little rumors here or there. So it's not the end of the world that we haven't heard anything yet. And I think people need to just step back a little bit and remember who owns this team, right? This is not the Wilpons that claim they're in on everybody because they had no problem telling you that they're in on everybody or they're talking to everybody. Everybody is rumored to be a Met or rumored to be the Mets are talking to them, right? They're not counting anything out, right? That was the famous words. We're looking at everybody, right? That was the Wilpon way, right? So when they tell you that they are in on everybody, they're lying. So just because Epler hasn't necessarily said directly that they're in on everybody, he said it in his press conference the other day. He said, listen, we're talking to Jacob deGrom, we're talking to players, and he even said this. He actually said this, which I'm shocked he said this, but he said it. He says, signing other free agents is not going to be put back because Jacob deGrom hasn't signed yet, right? He says if something comes up that we have a good feeling on, we will sign somebody that we need of necessity before Jacob deGrom makes his decision. So he said that. I'm shocked he said that, but that's the first thing that we actually said. He actually said that was relevant, right? It was coming from the horse's mouth. This wasn't coming from Dave Lennon. This wasn't coming from Joel Sherman, Ken Rosenthal, Jeff Passan, Andy Martino, anybody else except from the horse's mouth. When Epler says that, clearly he has a lot more going on than any of us know. And if that didn't open up your eyes, then I don't know what to tell you. Then you're just reaching for something to complain about. And listen, we're Mets fans. We have enough to complain about, right? Over the years. And for people like Jason, even including myself, I don't trust Epler much, but we're acting like 3 or 4 free agents that the Mets should have been on have been off the board, right? Have the Phillies signed anybody? Has the Yankees signed anybody? Has the Braves signed anybody? The Dodgers of relevance? No. So stop acting like the Mets are just sitting there and Trey Turner's at the Phillies. Judge went back to the Yankees. Rodon is in Texas, right? Nothing happened. None of these free agents have gone anywhere yet. Big trades haven't really happened, and the biggest trade was Winker and Colton Wong, which is nothing to write home about. So it's important to understand that nothing happened, right? None of our teams in the NL East have made a big signing, have made a big trade. Because I'm telling you, this is all strategic at this point with the owners, the players, and probably even the commissioner. They want big news. They want everybody's eyeballs on the winter meetings. I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the big shortstops signed during the winter meetings, possibly 2. Aaron Judge is going to sign into winter meetings. Jacob deGrom is going to sign into winter meetings. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see Rodon and Verlander sign at the winter meetings. They want big-time eyes, and they want big-time news at the winter meetings. First time since 2019, guys. So that they're actually at a location where everybody's in one hotel. That's what everybody has to remember. And people are focusing on the negative when the Mets had a really good offseason last year, right? People tend to forget that. They were pissed off about the trade deadline, and I was too. They didn't do enough. We all know that. And that kind of got me a little worried about Billy Epler. But what I noticed from Billy Epler since he's been a Mets GM is that we know his downfall with the Angels, right? He signed all these big-time bats. His offense was pretty damn good. The lineup was great. He could never get the job done when it came to pitching, starting rotation, and bullpen. And that was the demise of the Angels in Billy Epler's years with the Angels. What he's doing now is the exact opposite of what he did with the Angels, which was really focusing in on pitching at the moment, at least this year, this offseason, right? Last year, he basically got 3 guys that he signed in Marte, in Canna, and Escobar, and they were pushed right into the lineup. So 3 guys right away, right into the Mets lineup. So it's not like, and these guys, besides Escobar until September, Canna was decent, Marte was excellent, and he got these guys exactly to put right into the lineup. Starting third baseman, starting left fielder, and starting right fielder. So people tend to forget that. He made the moves that were necessary at that time in the offseason. Trade deadline, different story. Again, what he believed, he thought Vogelback and Ruff and Naquin were going to do something better than Dominic Smith and J.D. Davis at DH. He was wrong. That's on him. Absolutely. And also bullpen was a problem. But again, the bullpen didn't destroy the Mets season. It was the guys that everybody expected them to do well, which is deGrom, Bassett, and Scherzer, who fell apart in Atlanta and fell apart against the Padres, except for deGrom in the Padres series. So the people that we just assumed would do well did not, right? Our best hitter, one of our best hitters, Marte, who was one of our best all-around hitters all year, was out in the month of September. That could have changed. That could have made a difference between winning one more game than Atlanta or maybe more games, even more games than Atlanta. So there's so much to look at with that. And nobody can say that if the Mets would have got JD Martinez or Josh Bell or a batter like that to put at the DH spot, who was obviously a better hitter, right? Josh Bell, when he went to San Diego, didn't basically do anything for the Padres until the playoffs, right? And that doesn't mean he would have helped us in September to win us the division. We don't know that. So We'll see. And I do think the Mets are gonna make moves, obviously, but I'm not talking about little moves either. Right? I've been saying this for weeks. Trey Turner should be number one on the list for the New York Mets position player wise. They should be all over him. There should be no reason why he ends up with the Phillies. I've been saying this over and over again. The hell with Brandon Nimmo, okay? Because I'm telling you guys right now, if the New York Mets sign Brandon Nimmo, you are bringing back the same exact lineup from last year. And that's what they're going to do. I'm telling you right now. So all the people who are Brandon Nimmo fans, Ken, you're one of them. And I'm not saying I would not want Brandon Nimmo back, but it has to be Brandon Nimmo and more. It can't just be Brandon Nimmo and that's it for this lineup. Because if you're going to bring back the same lineup, don't expect different results in 2023. And that's the problem that too many people are having because I had this conversation, I believe, to be honest, I don't know if it was you, Jason, or somebody, it might have been somebody else, but I think it was you, Jason, as well. We had a conversation in the comment section of one of my videos. And I think it was with Brandon Nimmo. I could be wrong, but it might have been somebody else. They were saying, oh, Brandon Nimmo, he's a good chemistry guy in the clubhouse. Oh, he's a good teammate. Well, great. You know what? Give me a guy who's an asshole that bats 300, give me 30 home runs and 90 RBIs, and I can care less if he curses out his teammate or not. All right? I'm not saying he has to be, a bad teammate, but give me a guy that hits like that and is not the nicest guy in the world. I don't need somebody smiling when he runs the first base. I need a guy to be productive when we need him the most in clutch situations, right? So there we go. So, again, I like Nimmo, but it has to be more than Nimmo. That's the point. And I think people are trying to stretch out what I mean about Brandon Nimmo. Again, if the Mets believe he's worth $150 million and he gets that much, whatever. It doesn't hurt my pockets, right? But if that's all they do and it was a decision of Brandon Nimmo or Trey Turner, it's a huge mistake. And then we're going to be complaining about Brandon Nimmo when he bats 260. Oh, great, he walked. He runs the first base. I can't wait because he runs the first base because he doesn't steal freaking base. So there's another problem. No arm, doesn't steal bases, and he should steal bases this year. I want to see in spring training Brandon Nimmo finally stealing bases because the new rule where the pitcher can't throw over as many times and the bigger bases should allow Brandon Nimmo to steal effing bases. So I just don't get it. I really don't get it. And Justin, I agree with you with that. And well, Justin, I don't believe that because according to all the rumors, the Mets are very, very in on Brandon Nimmo, right? Everybody thought when they signed Marte, they were putting Marte in center field and moving Nimmo to right field. That was the idea. They gave Marte center fielder money just to put him in right field. That made no sense, right? They overpaid to bring Marte here because there was a couple of teams in on him. The Mets overpaid for Marte. Why would you overpay and pay Marte center field salary to put him in right field just to come back and sign Brandon Nimmo for well above what he's worth as a player just to put him in center field? I just don't understand that logic, right? Yeah, Ken, I can care less about the defensive center fielder stats because his defense revolves around playing deeper, which affects the balls in front of him, can't throw anybody out, and playing him deeper affects that even more. Again, I think people look at the defensive stats, but the defensive stat they want to not look at, it goes over their head, like assist for an outfielder. Brandon Nimmo doesn't have a lot. I think he had 2 this year. That's despicable with how many games he played, right? Can't throw runners out going first to third. Can't throw runners out second to home. Like, you can't have that type of situation. Well, Ken, I'm sorry. I don't see Nimmo as a really good center fielder. He got better, right? He got better from the debacle he was. So if that's a great center fielder or a really good center fielder, I'm sorry. And Ken, they're not wrong. The matter of fact is, Nimmo is not that good of a center fielder. Just because he was garbage 3 years ago and now he's good now doesn't make him a good center fielder. Has he gotten better? Yes. But from what he was, it's not that drastic. And again, he's not developing an arm. I think that ship has sailed. He doesn't steal bases. He's a 260 hitter who's a leadoff hitter. On base percentage, great. I love that. I love that 10 pitch at bat. That's fine. But there's guys out there that hits 30 points higher, that steals bases, that is more dynamic, and is an all-around better player. But yet the Mets are deciding to pick Nimmo over another player, because if they choose Nimmo and they're picking between another position player that can be versatile or Nimmo, what's going to happen, right? Are they choosing just one of them, or are they going to do both? It's crazy to me, because we talk about Aaron Judge, right? Ken, we talked about this. No, Ken, I don't think he sucks. The problem is people just look at, oh, look at those. Look how good he was. Look at the catches he made. Yeah, okay, but 2 years ago, he wasn't even very good. That we couldn't wait to get a center fielder. That's why when we got Marte, everybody was ecstatic. Nimmo can get the hell out of center field. All of a sudden, they play him deeper. It's easier to get to the gaps, and it's easier to go back on balls. So every blue pit, every ball that should be caught from the center fielder that plays normal depth falls in front of him. Can't throw anybody out. Ken, I agree. He is an okay player. But if you're going to pay this guy $150 million, he better be better than he was in 2022. And he won't be, right? 2022 was his career year, which, oh, by the way, was a contract year. All of a sudden, he stays healthy. All of a sudden, plays that he never made in his life, all of a sudden he makes. He doesn't go on the IL at all. That one time when he had that little issue, I think it was his hamstring. I think he dove for a ball. I think it was a hamstring, or it was a bite. Something was. It was a little issue. He missed one game and all of a sudden came back. You'd think if he wasn't in a contract year, he was just going to come back all of a sudden. I find that hard to believe, because in his career, he's played over 100 games twice in 6 years, 2018 and last year. I'm sorry. I'm not giving Nimmo the benefit of the doubt when the same people who talk about Aaron Judge like he's a plague and, oh, look, he's injury prone. Well, Aaron Judge has been just as injured, probably less than Brandon Nimmo. At least Aaron Judge have 3 years out of the 6 not injured and played more than 140 games. Nimmo is basically just as injured as Aaron Judge, but people are killing Aaron Judge. You can't give him that type of money. Well, what's the difference in 6 years of Brandon Nimmo, well above what he's worth, and Aaron Judge getting paid well above what he's worth, but Aaron Judge actually won an MVP? What has Brandon Nimmo won? And when people I want to talk about with Brandon Nimmo too, how many losing seasons had we have with Brandon Nimmo? Again, not all his fault, right? But he's been a part of a losing culture, right? And I talked about this over and over again. Look at the month of September. Nimmo wasn't very good in September when Marte was out. And you needed him as your leadoff hitter to have a really good September. I mean, one of his best months needed to be September, and it wasn't. So it continues to be the fact that could the Mets really be in on somebody else along with Brandon Nimmo? Because I'll tell you right now, if the Mets go after one of the shortstops and sign Brandon Nimmo, that's a good offseason position player-wise. I can't complain about that. There's nothing I can complain about. You wanted Brandon Nimmo back. He's a good player, right? Not great. He's a good player, right? If you want to talk about chemistry, it's good chemistry in the clubhouse. Good clubhouse guy. That's fine. But if it's just Brandon Nimmo, where else are you getting better at position player wise, right? You would think you clearly shortstop's locked up, first base is locked up, right field is locked up. So now you have no center fielder. If you want to move Marte there, so you have no right fielder. Last time I checked, Aaron Judge is a right fielder, right? And it is criminal that the Mets are not in on Aaron Judge, right? The Mets need an outfielder. There's an outfielder available that just won the MVP. Again, not saying the Mets should pay Aaron Judge an astronomical amount of money, but that was the thought process once Steve Cohen took over. They will be spending money on, or at least going after every big name free agent where there's a need. There's a need in the outfield, particularly if you want to put Marte to center field, in right field. But they don't do that. And they're not doing that right now. And it's criminal, right? Nobody can say if Aaron Judge was playing for the Kansas City Royals for the last 6 years and he was a free agent, you don't think the Mets would be all over him and sign him to, or trying to sign him to a big time contract? But because he's a New York Yankee and there's some type of bullshit agreement between Cohen and Steinbrenner, they're not getting him. They're not going after him because of that. And that is criminal. Not saying you have to agree with Aaron Judge's injury history and everything like that. But Nimmo has the same injury history as Aaron Judge. But Aaron Judge is a completely better player. And he steals more bases than Brandon Nimmo, and he's a foot taller than Brandon Nimmo. Like, it's amazing to me. And it makes no sense. And Aaron Judge is a better fielder than Brandon Nimmo. He does everything better than Brandon Nimmo. Average, home runs, RBIs. Granted, Nimmo's a leadoff hitter, so RBIs is kind of irrelevant, right? We know Nimmo is not a home run hitter. That's understandable. But let's be honest. Aaron Judge played center field last year, right? If people want to look at their statistics, look at the defensive metrics, the people that want to go analytical here. Look at Aaron Judge's statistics in center field, not combining right field, because right field's a joke in Yankee Stadium. But he played the majority of the year last year in center field, which center field is pretty big at Yankee Stadium. All right. The gaps are probably the biggest in the ballpark. Everything else is child's play, right? We know how cavernous Citi Field is, but that's why Nimmo plays deep, right? Again, it's not about Nimmo or Judge. It's just that when you got Cohen's money and everybody was like, oh, the richest owner in baseball, we're going to be in on everybody. But when there's a need at a position and the Mets are basically non-existent in those negotiation talks or even thinking about going after that guy, that's a problem. Muted, I agree. I agree with you. But it showed last year that he could. I wouldn't put Aaron Judge in center field if the Mets found a way, shocked at the world, and signed him. I'd put him in right field and throw Marte to center field. Like, that's not the point. The point is, he went to center field when nobody thought he can stay healthy the entire year. Again, I still believe it's fool's gold, just like Brandon Nimmo health in 2022 is fool's gold, right? I'm telling you guys right now, we're going to be complaining at some point in the next, probably even this year in 2023, that Nimmo's going to be on the IL at least once in 2023. I feel that's exactly what's going to happen. Well, Yankee fans are idiots. I'm sorry. I understand why the Yankees. See, if you can't be a baseball fan and not realize why Yankee fans booed Aaron Judge. Muted, what gave you the idea that Marte can't play center field? He was one of the best defensive center fielders prior to the year the Mets signed him. Everybody thought when they signed Marte, he was going to be our center fielder. So the Mets thought he can play center field. But the reason why Buck wanted him in right field because he had a great arm. That's the only reason why. And Nimmo can play center field. That's the reason why. So all this nonsense, like, okay, so he muted. He can't stay healthy. Well, Brandon Nimmo can't stay healthy. Why is he playing center field? I just don't get it. Marte has played more games over the last 5 years, minus the PED suspension, than Brandon Nimmo. So why can't he play center field? That's what I don't understand. Yeah, Ken. Okay, but Nimmo has the same problem. He don't stay healthy either. Hamstrings or no hamstrings, Nimmo doesn't stay healthy either. If it's the neck, if it's the numbness in the hand. Again, it's not the point of having Nimmo over Judge. That's not the point. The point is there's no comparison. And that's the problem that I think people are not understanding, right? And let me go back to the Yankees really quick, right? What we were just talking about the Yankee fans booing them in the playoffs. Well, when you've sucked in the playoff offensively and you're the big bat that everybody counts on in that Yankees lineup and you don't show up, okay, granted, nobody showed up in the playoffs for the Yankees. But when you hit 62 home runs, you nearly win the Triple Crown. Everybody expects you to be offensively great or at least really good in the playoffs. And he wasn't. So I don't care what anybody says. Mets fans would have booed Aaron Judge as well. All right? They would have. If you can't hit in the postseason, but you have a great year in 2022 and you sucked in the playoffs, you're going to get booed. I don't care. And then the people, the players, reporters, like, you have to be an idiot to realize why Yankee fans are booing. Again, I can't stand Yankee fans. But if you're a baseball fan, a legitimate baseball fan, especially a New York baseball fan, you should know better, right? You can boo Aaron Judge, but nobody talks about booing Francisco Lindor, right? Muted. There's a lot of older center fielders, by the way. And muted. The problem is that Marte was one of our best players all year. He was one of our best defensive players in the outfield all year. Right? And that one time he was out the most was when he got hit in the hand. Right? Even with the hamstrings, yeah, he was out a week. But after that, he came back and played. And he was fine. I mean, he was better than everybody else in that lineup. That's for damn sure. Yeah, Ken, I agree. But people are talking like the Yankee fans booing Aaron Judge was idiotic. It really wasn't. Because of the fact, right? If you're a Yankees fan and you expect Yankees to go far into the playoffs and Aaron Judge is struggling, you're going to boo in the playoffs. I don't care who you are. Well, Ken, I didn't trust Francisco Lindor. Again, look, he's never going to live up to that contract. Nobody is, right? Aaron Judge is not going to live up to his $350, $400 million contract. Juan Soto, when he's a free agent, is not going to live up to that contract, right? Nobody's going to live up to those astronomical numbers. They just are not, all right? Right? Lindor's contract, this guy should be hitting 35 to 40 home runs and 100 RBIs. Is he ever going to do that? No, because he never done that in his career. So to expect that is idiotic. And I think that's the problem. Whoever signs Judge is going to look at 2022 and they're going to compare every year after that to that year. And that's stupid, right? Aaron Judge is probably never going to hit 60 home runs again. All right. Could he hit 50? Depending on where he plays. You know, he'll probably hit 35 to 40. But you know what? Considering the way power is nowadays, that's pretty good. Like, if you expect more than that, then you're just not paying attention. You don't understand the game of baseball. Well, Ken Trout's another story. I mean, this guy's winning MVPs and he wasn't even that good certain years. So, again, The point is, I think we got way off track with most of the things that we're now talking about. No, muted. I agree. He's not going to hit 50. But again, he'll probably hit 35 to 40. Like, that's probably, if he stays healthy, he can hit that. Right? I mean, you can minus 10 home runs for him not playing in center field. So if he hit 62 in 2022, he probably could have hit 52 in another ballpark, or 50. So if you knock it down 20, he'll hit 42 home runs, which is more than anybody else on the Mets and most other teams. Well, Robert, yeah, 1 year. But every other year, he's around the 25 to 28 home run guy. You can't look at 1 year and see, Robert, that's the problem with a lot of fans. And it's not like knocking you or anything. All of us do it, right? You see 1 year of a player and you expect them to have that year every year, and it's not going to happen, right? Lindor, in the majority of his career, is a 25 to 28 home run hitter. That's what I expect. If he hits 38 home runs, that year is an anomaly. If you think that's the year that he's supposed to have every year, just because he has a $325 million contract, that's wrong. And the same thing goes for Aaron Judge. If you're going to think and compare 2022 season for Aaron Judge and compare him to that year for any other year, you're going to be disappointed every year. That goes for Brandon Nimmo. That goes for Starlin Marte. That goes for Pete Alonso, right? People were comparing 2019 Pete Alonso to the last couple of years, and that's idiotic to do. That's it. And, you know, what really made me like or enjoy Aaron Judge as a hitter more, like, I can care less about the home runs, right? That it's a lot of home runs, 62, but let's be honest, if he was in a normal ballpark with actual adult size fences, he could probably hit 40 home runs without an issue, 35 to 40 home runs. But what I liked is his batting average. Nearly won the Triple Crown, missed the batting average by a couple of points. He's a 300 hitter. You notice when he stays healthy, he's a 300 hitter. He got better laying off that slider on the outside corner, something that Pete Alonso is still trying to learn to do. He did a lot better this year, but that's something that Pete Alonso has to get better at, laying off that slider on the outside corner. He likes to fish at that, right? Aaron Judge seemed like the only time he fished of an outside slider when he faced Scherzer both times last year. that's when Judge fished for that slider. But I look at Aaron Judge's average and be like, wow, give me 300 for the next 5 years. Home runs will come. He's strong. So, you know, if Aaron Judge comes to Citi Field tomorrow, if anybody believes he's going to hit 60 home runs, you're going to get slapped in the face by another Mets fan, because he's not going to do that. You know, give me 35 to 40 home runs with Alonso's 35 to 40 home runs, and now we're freaking talking, right? The biggest problem last year with the Mets was the lack of power and the lack of protection that Pete Alonso got. Stevie, I know that's like a conspiracy theory. Some people were talking about that on Twitter. So, but again, you know, look, we're not the only fan base that is going absolutely berserk right now that their team hasn't done nothing, or the rumors doesn't abide by what their team should do, right? Mets fans, most money in baseball. Why aren't we in on every single free agent, right? We got that mentality now, like, why don't we hear this? Why don't we hear that? Even though, if you remember, right after the World Series, there was a report by Dave Lennon, if I'm not mistaken, that said the Mets internally during the 2022 season were talking about Trey Turner when he becomes a free agent after 2022. So they had discussions about Trey Turner. Just because you haven't heard a rumor about them really getting involved, or at least known to the public that they were involved in Trey Turner, they spoke internally about it. Now, if they agree to disagree, or they thought that it wasn't worth for him, the Mets, to go after him, that's their decision. But remember, they Zoom with a lot of players now. The players don't travel right? Only the big players like Judge, deGrom. I mean, we don't even know if deGrom traveled to Texas. He could have had a Zoom meeting with the Rangers, and deGrom said, well, the Mets offered us this. And the Rangers was like, yeah, have a good night. You know what I'm saying? So these guys don't travel around the country anymore to the teams that are trying to sign them. Mostly it's Zoom now. So again, it's very easy to sneak a Zoom meeting past reporters. And if the reporters don't have it, and if the agent, the player, or the team doesn't leak it out, you're not going to know. So for all we know, and what is known is that the Mets spoke to almost all the big time pitchers. That's what we know. That's what we know. You know why? Because the Mets probably wanted that out there. But maybe they didn't want the news out there about Trey Turner. Right? All we've heard, Phillies. Well, if we only heard the Phillies after Trey Turner, why haven't they signed him yet? Because there's other teams talking to Trey Turner that we haven't even heard about, and that's including the Mets. And that goes for Correa. That might even go for Bogart as well. And that's why it's frustrating when people are like, oh, how can they not be in on Trey Turner? How can they not be on this guy or that guy? Come on. Like, if you think that Billy Epler or any team that hasn't been leaked out yet, and it's not even just the Mets haven't been leaked out. You haven't heard Trey Turner. Look, you don't have to worry about hearing rumors about Trey Turner back to the Dodgers because he was a Dodger. So it makes sense the Dodgers are going to try to keep him. But other than the Phillies, why haven't you heard any other team that needs a shortstop? Why haven't you heard the Orioles rumored who needs a shortstop, right? Last time I checked, the Braves need a shortstop, right? We don't know about Swanson, right? Phillies, that's the only team you heard. You know why we heard about that? Because Bryce Harper was kissing Trey Turner's ass. And that's the reason why we heard about Trey Turner to the Phillies. Because he's good friends with Bryce Harper. Okay, we've heard that before. You know how many friends that players have around the league that don't go to the team that they're friends at? Come on. Like, just because he's a friend of Bryce Harper doesn't mean he's going to the Phillies. Like, it just doesn't... It makes sense because people want it to make sense. Oh, well, the Phillies need a shortstop. Well, why does it have to be Trey Turner? The reason why Trey Turner was the first choice of people talking about it was because he's friends with Bryce Harper, and they played on the same team in Washington. That's why. Muted, thank you. We agree. That's why they leaked that they spoke to Rodon and Verlander and Senga to put pressure on Jacob deGrom, because the Mets know at this point that Jacob deGrom is probably not going to get a bigger offer than what they offered. That's why Jacob deGrom is waiting around. He's praying for another mystery team that might just pop up and say, oh, we're just going to give you the money. That's what he's waiting for. That's why he hasn't signed yet. And that's the only reason why you've heard the leaks and the stories about the Mets talking to all those pitchers, because they put in pressure on deGrom, where the Mets say, we throw this out there, deGrom knows we're not waiting around. If you're not going to take this offer at a certain time, they're going to go after Verlander or Rodon, because they can't wait for those guys to get off the market. And now Jacob deGrom has the Mets over the barrel. That's the thing right there. So there is no upper hand in the Mets leaking out that they spoke to Trey Turner. How is that benefiting them? That's actually hurting them, because now Trey Turner can go to another team like, hey, I spoke to the Mets. Guess how much they're going to offer me? So the Mets know they're going to get used by other players to get more money from other teams. They're not going to do that. So why leak it out? Right? The same thing with the agents. The agents are not going to leak out. If the Mets say to the agent, listen, we don't want this leaked out. This is between us, the contract, the conversation. Don't leak it out, because you're not going to come back to us. We're going to be done with you, right? Every agent knows that they want to have the Mets hanging by the Christmas tree, having other teams worry that the Mets are going to take them or pay that player, because it helps the player to leverage the Mets' possible money to other teams that get nervous. You don't think Trey Turner right now is going to the Phillies, hey, I spoke to the Mets, right? They're not going to have the Mets back out of whatever conversation they had or offer they might have gave and then lose that leverage for other teams. They're just not going to lose that on the Mets. You know, Aaron Judge's market developed way before anybody. Everybody knew it was the Giants and the Yankees. Possibly the Dodgers, possibly the Mets. But we knew the two teams. That's the whole point. And that's why when the Aaron Judge thing, everybody knows what he was probably going to get. He's probably going to get between 325 and 375 Aaron Judge, right? When it comes to Jacob deGrom, we knew that there's only a handful, probably not even a handful of teams that can afford the contract and give him the amount of years he wants. The same thing goes for Trey Turner, right? There's a certain amount. Remember, there's a lot of shortstops out there. So there's not one team going after that one big shortstop that's available. I can assure you, if Trey Turner was the only shortstop on the market, you would have heard of 3 or 4 other teams being leaked out in on Trey Turner. But because there's 4 of them, there's no pressure for most of these teams. Even though I think Trey Turner is the best option for the Mets, doesn't mean they're not talking to Carlos Correa. Doesn't mean they're not talking to Xander Bogaerts. We don't know that. And again, why haven't we heard 6, 7, 8 teams on Trey Turner? If that is so much of, like, everybody believes that Trey Turner is the most dynamic out of all of them, the shortstops that are available, right? It's clear that Trey Turner fits the Mets. The match makes sense. Not shortstop, but second base, center field, right? Those are options. That's something. I don't care what anybody says. If the player says that they want to play shortstop, I can assure you a check that's higher than every other team is going to persuade you to play second base or center field, right? Marte believed when he signed that contract with the Mets, he was playing center field. Once he signed that contract, Buck was like, no, I want you in right field. What is Marte going to say? Oh, no, take back the money? No. Well, I agree, Muted. I think, and the whole reason, and somebody brought up a good point. I said this last stream, that we heard the mystery team was the Rays with Jacob deGrom. Somebody brought up, one of the listeners brought up a good thing when they spoke to Salicata on the overnight. He said he don't think the Rays went to Jacob deGrom and spoke to Jacob deGrom. He believes Jacob deGrom's agent approached the Rays just to have that thought, a Florida team. deGrom lives in Florida. Let's worry the Mets. I think that's what happened. I think the deGrom's agent approached the Rays just to make it a little bit more interesting for the Mets, to try to spook them a little bit. And the Mets know the Braves, who were supposed to be the big competition for Jacob deGrom during the season, it's laughable that they even had a shot, because they didn't. Because they don't pay starting pitchers astronomical amounts of money. They develop their young pitchers, and they bring in veterans like Charlie Morton for a 1 or 2 year deal. Then at $20 million, not $45 million. They don't do that. Well, Muted, that's not even a point. The point is the whole Florida connection with Jacob deGrom. That's the only reason why. We know the Rays, unless Jacob deGrom is going to take a 2 year deal of $50 million each year to go to Tampa, he's not doing that, because he wants a 3 or 4 year deal. Unless, I guarantee you, the Rays, if it was true that the Rays approached Jacob deGrom, they probably offered him a 1 year deal. That's what they probably did, because that's what they do. So it's funny to me that everybody's like, oh my God, the Rays, oh damn it. Well, the biggest competition was supposed to be the Texas Rangers. You see how fast nobody talks about that anymore, right? That all of a sudden it leaked out that Carlos Rodon is priority number 1 for the Rangers now. Why is that? Because the Mets offered Jacob deGrom, put the offer on the table for Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom doesn't like attention, so you know he's not going to tell his agent to leak the offer. The Mets don't leak nothing. The offer is already on the table for Jacob deGrom. We just don't know what it is yet. But Jacob deGrom clearly went to the Rangers with that offer and says, this is what the Mets offer. Can you match it or do better? The Rays are like, no. And that's why we haven't heard nothing about the Rangers. So it's a mind game here. The Jake is trying to milk it as much as he can. That's why everybody believes Jake's is going to sign during the winter meetings. And the same thing with Aaron Judge, because the markets developed for those two players. We know who's involved with Aaron Judge. The Yankees and the Giants, two favorites. That's it. For Jacob deGrom, the mystery team in the Rays is laughable, unless he's going to take a one-year deal. The Texas Rangers were supposed to be the second biggest competition, and the Mets were number one for Jacob deGrom. Right? We heard a little bit. The Yankees got the medicals. That's unrealistic. The Dodgers, maybe, but I don't think they're trying to spend money on big-time starting pitching. They're still looking for other intricate players to fill up their roster. So who's left? And that's why deGrom and Judge's markets have developed, and the teams already in the hunt. And that's why you haven't heard anything about Jacob deGrom, because if it was that scary that Jacob deGrom can leave, you would have heard a lot more rumors about the Mets. The Mets would have leaked the offer eventually. If the Mets were concerned that Jacob deGrom was going to leave to another team and there was another offer on the table that was better than the Mets would have leaked the offer. Number one, to save face and say to the fans, look, this is how much we offered. This is not on us. Jacob deGrom doesn't want to be here. That's what they would say. That's what they would do. But because the offer hasn't been leaked and Jacob deGrom is scrambling to try to find a better offer to at least try to milk a little bit more money from the Mets, it hasn't been successful. Because if it was successful, we would have heard the numbers and the offers by now. So that's why I think it's just a matter of time before Jacob deGrom signs with the Mets, unless somebody comes out of nowhere, like the Rangers. Say if tomorrow the Cubs give a great offer to Carlos Rodon tomorrow and he's off the table. Now that puts pressure on the Mets, because the Rangers, the guy who they made priority number one of the offseason in Rodon is gone. Now they probably have to really dig into their pockets for Jacob deGrom. That's when it might get a little crazy and a little worrisome for the Mets, where they might have to up their deal a little bit just to make sure Jacob deGrom comes back, because there's one less guy that the Mets could get to fill Jacob deGrom's spot. That's the problem. And that's the thing that we have to think of as well. The same thing that goes for Trey Turner. And again, if you just listen to the rumors or the lack thereof when it comes to the Mets, you have to understand that the New York Mets do not leak out anything. And anything you've heard from Andy Martino or any other reporters about the Mets, besides the pitchers, they're trying to reach for a story. You have to understand that. It's been quiet, especially the local reporters that focus on the Mets beat reporters. When you see them have a long Twitter, a long worded Twitter tweet, a long tweet, they're reaching. They're trying to give you information that's not there. Oh, look, a big tweet. It must be important, right? When there's an offer on the table and people know about it, the reporter will put Mets made offer. The same thing with the Aaron Judge offer, right? With Jeff Passan. Yankees made an offer, 8 years, $300 million. That's it. That was one sentence. When reporters write something that's meaningful, it's like one or two sentences on Twitter. When they write basically every character in that tweet, and it's a long tweet, they're reaching. I don't think you noticed it. If you haven't noticed that by now, I'm bringing it up. I'm telling you. Because when it's important and when it's factual, it's like a sentence or two. When they're reaching for a story, it's about 5-6 sentences. Every character that you can tweet with. That's what the reporters do. That's what they have been doing with the Mets. And specifically, when you heard the Senga and deGrom, right? When we saw the tweets a couple of weeks ago with Andy Martino, he put, again, whatever you want to believe with Andy Martino, he believes that the Mets are going to get deGrom and Senga. That was a sentence and a half. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing that people are not really understanding when it comes to that. Like I just said it to you, right? Michael Marino. Look how long this tweet is right there. Look at that. That's one tweet. One tweet. That's a paragraph. When you have to go that far to explain what's going on, you're clearly reaching for a story. Like, there might be a little truth in that statement, but if it's not one sentence or two sentences in a tweet, clearly they're reaching for stories, right? When the judge offer came out on the table and Jeff Passan reported it, it was one sentence. 8 Yankees offer Judge 8 years, $300 million, or around $300 million. That was it. That's where we are. And that's the important thing you have to look at as well. So, once again, guys, there'll be a video tomorrow about James McCann. That's right, James McCann. I thought nobody was doing that one. A video is going to be posted tomorrow around the premiere is going to be around 5-6 o'clock. It's about James McCann and why the Mets should trade him. Right? There was a tweet earlier today that the Mets have been in trade talks with other teams regarding James McCann. I put up those. I talk about those teams that could possibly trade for him and what the Mets could get back, or they're going to make it a salary dump, right? In the tweet, I forgot who it was. Let me just see if I can find it really quick. Let's see. Let's see. All right. So I can't find it, but it was a tweet that said, Mets are in trade talks to try to trade James McCann, right? This was only a week before Epler said that he might carry 3 catches, which is idiotic. They're not doing that. So, and within that, oh shit. Hold on. Wow. Is that true? Hold on. Oh boy. Hold on, guys. Give me a second. Wow. All right, guys. So Jacob deGrom is gone. That's huge. Right-handed pitcher. This is Jeff Passan right now. Right-handed pitcher Jacob deGrom has signed a 5-year, $185 million contract with the Texas Rangers. Physical or past deal is done. All right. Well, the Rangers did it, guys, and the Mets weren't going 5 years. So look for the Mets to go after Rodon and Verlander. Wow. That's a lot. That is a lot. I'm not expecting 5 years. Congratulations to the Rangers. I got to say that because I didn't think anybody was going to give them 5 years. Hey, that's amazing. That is, you know what? That's 5 years, man. That's tough. That's a lot of years. I wasn't expecting that. Well, there you go, guys. That is something that is shocking. 5 years is a lot for Jacob deGrom. I mean, the Mets weren't going there. I'm sorry. That's a lot. And you know what? That's what Jacob deGrom was waiting for. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. Interesting, though, because it's $37 million a year. It's only a couple of $1 million more than what he was going to make with the Mets. So the Mets didn't want to go to the 5th year, which is kind of shocking considering it's only $37 million. But there was no way the Mets were going to go 5 years. But, hey, you got to give it to the Rangers, right? What can you do? I'm not even mad about that, to be honest with you. I didn't see the Mets going 5 years. Yeah, I think everybody is shocked by that, to be honest with you. 5 years, that's a lot of years, but it's 37. Look, here's the idea, right? The Mets probably had more money per year, but probably only had a 3-year deal, maybe 4. The Rangers, deGrom went back to the Rangers and says, give me 5 years and I'm yours. That's probably it. That's shocking, to be honest with you. That is shocking. Not shocked that Jacob deGrom left. Shocking that he got a 5th year. But you know what? We talked about the Rangers, right? They went for it last year. They spent $500 million on Simeon and Seager. And you know what? Listen, this came down to the fact that Jacob deGrom didn't want to be a New York Met. That's it. That is it. Well, again, it came down to the years. It wasn't the money. $37 million a year. He took $3 million more than what he was going to make with the Mets before he opted out. So $3 million more a year for 5 years. But again, the Texas no state tax. Again, we expected the Mets to probably give him around 40. So he took less money per year, right? The whole point of him opting out was the door process. He wanted to get paid more than Max Scherzer. Well, he's not even getting paid more than Garrett Cole per year. Jake wanted to leave, and he got his 5th year. That's it. What are you going to do? You know, the first thing I did when I saw that tweet was to check the followers of Jeff Passan. No, I see. This is where we are right now, right? Look, Jacob deGrom didn't go to the Braves, didn't go to the Phillies, didn't go to the Dodgers. He went to the AL West, where they're probably the 3rd best team in the AL West. So Jacob deGrom is not going to affect us unless we play them during the season and he pitches against us. So I can show you right now, the next story that's going to come out is the Verlander or Rodon is going to be a Met. I'm telling you that right now. You're going to hear it rather quickly. If not tonight, you're probably going to hear it tomorrow or something like that. So Jacob deGrom did not even wait until the winter meetings. Hey, listen, we talked about this, right? We talked about this. Nobody spoke about a 5th year. You see the thing, this whole thing right now with the rumors process, right? Nobody, not even reporters, talked about a 5th year. People were talking about a 4th year a lot, never a 5th year. Clearly, the Mets had a 4-year deal on the table. Because if the Mets didn't have a 4-year deal on the table, he would have took a 4-year deal from the Rangers. So there you go. Clearly. And listen, they had this press release. Look, the Rangers press release already. So they had this in the works. They had it. They had an offer on the table, and they made sure. And they put up everything. Lowest ERAs and expansion era from 61 to 2000 since 1961, minimum 200 starts. This is their press release right here. Jacob deGrom is 3rd on the list. Yeah, it's a 6-year option. That's a lot. Look, they went for it, and you can't blame them, right? They were desperate, and they got him. So that's what it was, right? Let's see. Hold on. Interesting. Yeah, so, we know it's a 5-year, $185 million, which comes out to $37 million per year. I don't see the 6-year option, but if that's true, Grant, hey, that's ridiculous. And you know what? It came out to be the Mets weren't as desperate as the Rangers. Put it that way. And then Bob Nightingale just pops up with the tweet. Mets now, of course, will be focusing their attention on free agent Carlos Rodon and Justin Verlander. There you go. That's obvious. So we're going to stick around for a little bit longer just to see what's going on, because clearly the Mets might pivot rather quickly. They already spoke to these guys on Zoom, Verlander and Rodon. Yeah, like I said, it's not the AAV, because clearly Jacob deGrom did not care about getting paid more per year than Max Scherzer, right? That was the whole idea. Everybody thought he's opted out because he saw Scherzer get $43.5 million from the Mets. We all thought that Jacob deGrom wanted that AAV per year. That's why everybody talked about a 3 or 4 year deal. 5 years wasn't even an option. I don't think anybody thought of that. And to give a 6-year option, that's I mean, can you be mad about that? No, because he's out of the division. He's not a Yankee, and he's in the AL West where nobody cares, right? So, and he has to face the world champions and face an up-and-coming Seattle Mariners team. So they might not even make the playoffs. And besides Jacob deGrom, they have no other good pitchers in that rotation. Now, maybe they go after Rodon. You never know. I mean, they're spending a ton of money, right? From Simeon, Seager, and deGrom, they spent over almost $700 million in 3 guys. So, yeah, I mean, Ken, that's what's weird about it, because $37 million a year. He was projected to get $34 million this year for the Mets if he didn't opt out. So he left for $3 million more, probably for an extra year. That's what happened. The Mets probably offered him a 4-year deal. He was waiting for the Rangers to decide on a 5th year, and they probably decided to do it, and they did. I mean, you can't kill him on that. You can't kill him. Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm just looking at something. So yeah, it's all the notifications are popping up now. I'm just reading something, guys. So okay. So the contract is for 5 years, $185 million with a conditional 6-year option that would increase it to $222 million. So yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? So you can't do anything. Look, nobody's gonna be mad at the Mets in this situation, because you can't go to a 5th year. Hey, put it this way: the Mets might have offered a 5th year to deGrom. Maybe the Rangers put that 6-year option in there, that mutual option, and the Mets weren't willing to do that. Well, Steve, I'm gonna tell you this right now: deGrom used the Mets offer to get a better deal from another team. We know what happened when Noah Syndergaard and Steven Matz took the Mets offer and got better deals elsewhere. It turned into Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett. I'm telling you, be careful. This is where Steve Cohen is going to get mad, because of the fact that Jacob deGrom used the Mets to get more years and more, probably just more years from another team. So we're going to see, that's for sure. I'm getting texts from everybody right now. It's like insane. And you know what's even worse? Tomorrow's the Queens baseball convention, so it's going to be a lot of Met fans that are going to be either pissed or happy. I don't know. It's going to be a weird Queens baseball convention, because I think last year, the last year a big time player on the Mets left from free agency. I think it was Jose Reyes. Oh no, that was like 2010 or 2011. So the Queens QBC wasn't there. It was somebody. I think it was Jesus. I'm trying to remember right now. Can't remember. Something happened during the offseason before the Queens baseball convention that pissed off a lot of people, and it wasn't a very happy Queens baseball convention. But like I said, guys, where was the rumors about the offers coming back and forth from the Rangers? There was none, right? At all. So this came out of nowhere. There was no rumors at all. We were running through Twitter. But I'm telling you right now, Jacob deGrom used the Mets. Jacob deGrom did not want to be a New York Met. That's it. Jacob deGrom did not want to be a New York Met. So for whatever you want to do, this is not on the Mets, right? If the Mets did offer him a 5-year deal, the 6-year option probably got it done for the Rangers. So I'm telling you, this was all about Jacob deGrom leaving. He did not want to be a New York Met. That's basically it. He didn't want to be in New York because the Mets probably offered more money and probably one less year. That's where it's at right now. So I'm just And it is very interesting, though, because Epler spoke yesterday, and he seemed like he didn't have a care in the world about he felt it looked like he was confident in what he was going to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's weird that was this something that look like this. I'm telling you, it's going to come out. You're going to hear the stories now. You're going to hear a story probably in the next day or two regarding Jacob deGrom. You're going to hear the Mets offered him probably a 4 or 5 year deal. The Jacob deGrom probably took that and was going over his decision and went back to the Rangers and said, "Can you up it another year and I'll be signing the deal." That's what probably happened, because I'm shocked that the fact that because reporters were tweeting, this is where you can't believe reporters, that the Mets were the favorites. The Rangers were out. They were prioritizing Rodon. Well, that went out the window already. So I'm telling you right now, Steve Cohen's going to be pissed because he got used once again to get more from another team. This happened with Syndergaard and it happened with Steven Matz. That turned into Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett. So I'm telling you right now, do not be shocked if you hear Verlander or Rodon a Met or both of them a Met. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be insane. I'm telling you guys, because this is either a shock to the Mets, because clearly the Mets probably had a 4 or 5 year deal, gave it to deGrom, and they thought he was going to sign, or he gave indications that he was going to sign. He probably went back to the Rangers and says, "Can you do better?" And they did. So that's probably what happened. And I'm telling you, the news is going to come out. You're going to hear what was the Mets offer. You're going to hear it. And look, the problem with being the team that has the most money is players are going to use you to get better deals elsewhere. Even if they didn't want to be with the Mets, they would use the Mets as a pawn to get more money from other teams. We already seen it for a couple of years now, especially last year. So we'll see. Let's see. I'm just checking. Yeah, they're showing the iconic picture of Harvey, Syndergaard, deGrom, Matz, and Wheeler all now off the team. So this was only 7 years ago, and they're all gone now. So yeah, Evan Roberts is going nuts on Twitter. Keith McPherson is trying to console him a little bit. So listen, guys, again, this came down to the fact that Jacob deGrom, one, didn't want to be here. Clearly used the Mets offer to get more from the Rangers, right? That's probably what happened. That's why this came out of nowhere, right? There was no news about this at all. So clearly this was going where deGrom thought that the Rangers weren't going to go any higher. The Mets gave him the offer, and that's probably what happened. So you can't do nothing except the fact that what were the Mets supposed to do? Give him 6 years? Like, no Mets fan thought that would have been a good idea to give him 6 years. You just can't do it. Sorry, I'm just checking. Give me 1 second. You know, I got people that are Yankee fans that are texting me now, of course. So, you know, got to go back at them, right? All right, sorry about that, guys. There you go. So I'm gonna get the the Yankee fans texting me now. I mean, I got about 5 text messages from Yankee fans right now. So there we go. Again, if you guys think, look, you're disappointed because Jacob deGrom was our guy, right? And that's it. And he was our guy. That's why it's a little frustrating. Steve Cohen just tweeted from Andy Martino, I wish him well. He has the right to choose his team. Now this team has to move on to the next thing. Again, this was clearly a deGrom decision. It wasn't the Mets not offering him the world, right? They probably gave him a very good offer. I think, to be honest with you, I think the Mets are not even going to tell you what they offered Jacob deGrom, but it was clearly right around what the Rangers offered him. I guarantee you it was the extra year. That's it. Yeah, and I just read it, Grant. I just read it right now. This is what happened. Mike Puma, the Mets never got to a final offer with Jacob deGrom. He never went back to Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom never went back to the Mets after the Rangers offered him that contract. He never went back to them. So once again, this is what Syndergaard did, and this is what Steven Matz did. They did not go back to the Mets to see if they would match it. So clearly Jacob deGrom didn't want to be here, just like Steven Matz didn't want to be here, just like Noah Syndergaard didn't want to be here. So if those are facts, that Jacob deGrom never went back to the Mets to see if they would match or increase their offer, Jacob deGrom didn't want to be here. So you know what, Mets fans, don't get mad. This wasn't on the Mets. And Jacob deGrom can try to actually make the playoffs in Texas, where the Astros and the Mariners are better, and the Angels have been making moves this year as well. So he got a tough competition in that own division alone. He wanted to leave. Well, Steve, I don't see why, because where were the Texas Rangers last year, right? They scored runs, but they had no pitching, right? Jacob deGrom is not going to be the savior of that rotation. Even if he's great, an ace is not going to get you far enough, right? The Rangers have no bullpen. They have no rotation. Again, they can make more moves, and it can be a whole new ballgame. But they do have the world champions in their division who got better with Jose Abreu. The Seattle Mariners just made a move. They are an up-and-coming young team, right? Everybody expects the Blue Jays to be better, the Orioles to be better, the Guardians might be better. And listen, it is what it is at this point, right? You can't get mad at the Mets. Robert, at this point, yes. I mean, just look at Steve Cohen's tweet. What he said. I wish him well. He has the right to choose his team. Does that tweet sound familiar? He tweeted the same thing about Noah Syndergaard and Steven Matz. Now this team has to move on to the next thing. That's not a tweet that's like, oh, I feel bad for us. Let us get Chris Bassett. All right? That's not it. Okay? And the Mets never got a final offer with Jacob deGrom. So there you go. Jacob deGrom took the Mets offer, went to the Rangers, say, do better, and I'm signing now. That's why this happened so quickly. That's what happened. And that's it. So this isn't a pity party for the Mets. This isn't laughing at Mets fans, because I'm sorry, there is no rational fan who doesn't want to be a troll. If you're a real baseball fan, nobody spoke about a 5th year or even a 6th year option for Jacob deGrom. So that just shows you that the Rangers were really desperate. It was either they increased their offer, their year, or he was going back to the Mets. So clearly, Jacob deGrom was in panic mode and went back to the Rangers to see if they would increase the offer. Hold on, guys. I'm getting news in here rather quickly. Hold on. Sorry. Whoa. Listen to this, guys. Now, you see, Steve Cohen's upset. According to Joel Sherman, MLB Network, Mets are offering Aaron Judge a deal. This is just happening. I'm telling you. Hold on, guys. Again, you see, the Mets were going to spend nearly $220 million on Jacob deGrom if they were willing to go. They probably went 5 years. 5 years, probably around the same amount. So if they were going to spend that much on Jacob deGrom, well, guess what? Now they got a lot more money to play with, right? If they really want to. Well, Jonathan, we'll see about Turner because right now, Steve Cohen is not happy because once again, another player used the Mets offer to go to another team. Jacob deGrom didn't want to be a Met. It's very simple. He's going to a team that is worse than the Phillies, worse than the Mets, worse than the Yankees, worse than the Braves. So and Steve Cohen tweeted. He's not. I'm telling you, Steve Cohen doesn't tweet to have fun. All right, he's upset. He's pissed because Jacob deGrom used him. Blue City, yes, I know, but that's a lot of years, and I'm sorry. There is no real baseball fan think that's a good deal for anybody. All right, nobody talked about a 5th-year or even a 6-year option that Jacob deGrom got. Well, yeah, Plazzi, I'm telling you, Jacob deGrom, Steve Cohen's going to use that money now. And according to Joel Sherman on MLB Network, just now, the Mets are offering Aaron Judge an offer. I don't know if that's a big offer, like a blow out your ass type of offer, like, okay, you're ours now. But this is what Steve Cohen did last year. This is what I was trying to explain to you guys. The Mets offered a qualifying offer to Noah Syndergaard. Noah Syndergaard took that offer, went to the Angels and says, can you do better than the qualifying offer? Noah Syndergaard never went back to the Mets to get another offer. He signed with the Angels. Remember, Steve Cohen tweeted that. The Mets, Steve Cohen said, Syndergaard never went back to us with a counter offer. The same thing with Steven Matz with the Cardinals. He took the Mets offer, went to the Cardinals, and then he signed with the Cardinals when they gave him a little bit more. So, again, the rumors are coming in, guys. Now the Mets are in on Aaron Judge. What did I tell you? I said this last stream. If Jacob deGrom does not sign with the New York Mets, the Mets are going to go after Aaron Judge. It's going to be a fuck you to everybody else. And this is where the Mets are going to go crazy. They did it last year, guys. Noah Syndergaard screwed the Mets, took the offer, and went to the Angels. The Mets traded for Chris Bassett. Steven Matz took the Mets offer, went to the Cardinals, says, can he do better? They did. He went to the Cardinals. The Mets signed Max Scherzer. Don't think one doesn't relate to the other. That's a lot of money off the books, ladies and gentlemen. That's $36 million that Jacob deGrom is going to make. And now that's off the Mets book. So that's extra money that the Mets have to spend now. I'm telling you right now, Jacob deGrom just opened up a can of you know what. All right. They just woke a sleeping giant. Like, I don't know if you guys watched Pearl Harbor, and you know that was one of the famous lines in World War II where the Japanese says after they bombed Pearl Harbor, they says, I think we woke up a sleeping giant. That's Steve Cohen. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now, the Mets are going to make us. I don't know if it's going to be Aaron Judge. I don't think Judge is signing today. But you know what? This puts a wrinkle in the Giants and the Yankees' quest for Aaron Judge now. And you know what? That's where you have to look at. Like it's just not like there's no coincidence that Aaron Judge news came out right after Jacob deGrom signed. That's not a coincidence, guys. This is planned. I'm telling you guys, this is strategic by the straight line strategic plan from the Mets. They did it last year. Look at last year and what happened with Syndergaard and Matz. It's the exact same thing, just on a higher profile pitcher. A Mets pitcher was offered contracts by the Mets, went to another team to match or increase their offer, and never coming back to the Mets to counter offer it. It's exactly what happened last year. And guess what? That turned into Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett, other than Syndergaard and Matz. And I think most people can believe that that was a better decision, right? Again, nobody's saying Jacob deGrom's garbage. You're not going to hear that from Mets fans. But nobody, look, if the deal came out that it was 4 years, 150 million or something like that, or 170 million, Mets fans would have been mad. But the fifth year didn't make a lot of Mets fans mad. So I'm just going with Twitter. SNY is live right now. Give me a second, guys. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me just get SNY right now. I mean, even Mike Francesa is tweeting. Hold on, guys. Did they go live? They didn't go live yet. Okay. Sorry. Thought they went live. Hold on. More stuff's coming out. All right. So there we go, guys. Yeah. Jonathan, I'm telling you right now, listen, if the Texas Rangers, Jonathan, you're a baseball guy. I know you're a Phillies fan, but you're a baseball guy. If the Texas Rangers can spend $500 million on Seager and Simeon and another $222 million on Jacob deGrom, there's no reason why the Mets can't do that. I know. I just saw Mike Francesa's tweet. It's the funniest thing. I didn't read it because it just popped up, and here it goes. The deGrom got a great deal in a tax-friendly state. Good for him. This won't derail the Mets. I agree. Listen, the $37 million is clearly more money in his pocket in Texas if the Mets offered a $43 million contract. Because if they did that, again, we all know the Mets didn't make a crap offer, right? We knew it was a really good offer. It was probably going to be around the range of Max Scherzer, if not more. But the tax probably affected the issue. But I don't think it was the money. I think it was the amount of years. I think the Mets probably maybe they offered a fourth year. They probably gave him a fourth year. He went to the Rangers, says, give me a fifth year, and I'll sign the contract. That's what happened. And if he didn't go back to the Mets, clearly he did not want to be with the Mets. And I don't even think it was the money, because I honestly think the Mets would have gave him $50 million a year if they needed to. But he's only making $3 million more than what he was making with the Mets per year. That's the whole point. And that's why it's crazy. Jonathan, I don't know anymore. You know, here's the thing. Put it this way. If the Giants and the Yankees don't go past 350 and Steve Cohen says, F all you guys, Aaron, 410 years. He's not going to take that. He's going to take $50 million less to go to one of those two teams. They're not going to do that. All right. Jacob deGrom took the money. Even if he didn't want to be a Met, he was going to be a Met if the Rangers didn't offer him that fifth year. So money talks. Monies and years talks. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're a Brave fans or a Philly fans. That's a lot of years. Nobody talked about. Listen, the Braves weren't going 5 years. The Mets weren't going 5 years. Nobody was going 5 years for Jacob deGrom. Look, the Texas Rangers overspent like the Mets overspent on Max Scherzer. That's exactly what happened. That's it. And again, no Mets. Look, Mets fans are going to be a little upset because that's our guy, right? But for 5 years and an option. It's a mutual 6-year option. So it's not even a team option. It's a mutual option. So it's basically the Rangers are probably going to keep that offer, and it's contingent on other things as well. Well, Jonathan, that's the whole point. He didn't go anywhere near our division. He didn't even go into our league. Like, it would have sucked more if he was a Dodger or went to the Giants, say, right? Because he's in the National League. We have to deal with him. But he's in baseball Siberia in the AL West with the Astros and the Mariners and the Texas Rangers, who spent $500 million on 2 guys who, let's be honest, I don't think Simeon and Seager are that good, and they got paid. But it's Jacob deGrom and nobody in that rotation. Again, the Rangers can go out and get Rodon now. You don't know. They spent a lot of money. Why would they stop now, right? And listen, this wasn't a win move. It clearly wasn't, right? I'm sorry. The Braves, the Mets, the Phillies, even the Yankees and the Dodgers are better situated to win now or in the next couple of years than the Texas Rangers. And look, the only thing that the Rangers can have their hats on is that Bruce Bochy is their manager. Thank you, Mike. That was something that I was going to bring up. I forgot about that, but yes, that helps. But again, Bruce Bochy also had really good teams with the Giants when he won. Like, it's not like he took a team that nobody expected to win to championships. They won 3 in 5 years. Jonathan, I said the same thing. I think that might happen. So again, we're going to look at it now, guys. You're going to look at Rodon. You're going to look. It's going to be Verlander or Rodon coming to the Mets. Are the Mets going to sign Senga as well? Look, it's going to be Verlander or Rodon. Maybe both. I don't know. They got money to spend now, right? You know, you give $40 million to Justin Verlander for 2 years, and you give Rodon 4 years, $70-80 million. You know, that's basically the amount of money you would have probably give Jacob deGrom for that entire contract. So it's possible, but you know what? We're going to stick around for a little bit more. I wasn't planning on staying that long, but hey. All right, hold on. Give me a second, guys. We're getting stuff. Well, there goes the jersey swap, guys. I know you guys don't want to see it, but there it goes. Looks weird, but it kind of looks orange and blue, right? Well, listen, Peter, just think of it this way. They had a price and an amount of years. I think everybody believed that 4 years was the max, right? Nobody disagreed with that. 3 years was the minimum. 4 years was the max. Clearly, I'm telling you, the story is going to come out. The Mets offered him a 4-year deal for probably more money per year, right? Obviously, with taxes, it was probably around the Scherzer money, $43-44 million per year, right? Probably around that. With taxes, it goes back to around $37 million, $38 million. So the Rangers, deGrom went to the Rangers and says, listen, the Mets gave me 4 years. They're not going more than this. If you give me a 5th year and get the money up where the taxes aren't going to be an issue, we have a deal. And then the contingency was the 6th year just to make it a little bit more lucrative. So there you go. And that's the whole point. And that's the idea behind this Jacob. I'm telling you, you're going to hear it because it only makes sense why Jacob deGrom. This was reported right after the contract offer was the contract was signed, right? So Jacob deGrom went through the physical because the physical's done, everything's done. The press release is out from the Rangers. So he did all this while the Mets already had the offer to Jacob deGrom. Like I said, I told you they offered him a contract. He clearly went there and says, if you do this, I'll sign here with you. He used the Mets offer to get what he wanted from another team, just like Syndergaard and just like Matz. That turned into Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett last year when Syndergaard and Match use the Mets. It's just that simple. Great, Bravos. I know you want to be a troll at this point, but you're not going to hurt our feelings. But Bravos, the Mets would have gave him more money. It wasn't, he only is making $3 million more than the contract he was originally getting with the Mets that he signed a couple of years ago. It was $3 million more. The years was the problem. That's the idea. I'm sorry. I would not want the Mets to go 5 years and give a 6-year option on a guy who has been injured, who's been complaining about nagging injuries for the last couple of years, and you can't trust him every time he goes out. I can't have a guy on 5 years at the age of 39, possibly 40, 41, that every time he goes out, we have to worry about him getting hurt. That's what it was last year. Every time he had a bad start, like the Oakland, oh, he must be hurt. Who wants that? I don't want to be thinking about that. I want to be thinking about the game, not about if deGrom's going to be healthy. Oh, Ronald, okay. Well, yeah, Bravos. I don't know. You know, there was rumors about that. I don't know what's going on with the Braves and the Acuna situation. I'm not shocked because Acuna is the type of guy that is probably frustrated that he signed a deal that is less than most other guys that sign deals. So that's probably the reason why. So it's kind of the point that, and well, Michael, exactly. That's the whole point. So this isn't on the Mets. Now, would the Mets counter offered a similar deal? Maybe, but it never got to that point because deGrom didn't even want to be bothered, which tells me two things. Number one, he didn't want to stay in New York. Number two, he was hoping the Rangers went that extra mile, and they did. Nothing you can do about that. So look, the point is the Mets still have an ace in Max Scherzer, right? He pitched better than Jacob deGrom. Scherzer missed a decent amount of time, right? Nobody can question that. But deGrom did too. So it's really Kendall, thank you so much for being a member, new member. Kendall B, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate it. So again, it was all about the years. It wasn't about the money with the Mets, clearly. Because if he took $37 million, just do the math, right? 8%, 8.5% state tax in New York, right? If you do the math just on that, the Mets would have had to offer him around $44 million per year, around $45 million per year. So they would have to do that to make it even with the Rangers, tax purposes wise, state tax wise. So they probably offered that. Again, we all said, we've been saying it for a couple of weeks, the New York Mets shouldn't give more than a 4-year deal to Jacob deGrom. We said that. We said that. That it's not speculation, it's a fact. Even Brave fans were talking about it. Jonathan, you're a scout, right? You're in Atlanta right now. Tell me. All the rumors were about the max 4 years for Jacob deGrom, right? They were, including the Rangers, right? Some people thought the Mets were going to go past 3 years, but might have pushed it to 4 years. Well, Edwin Diaz is 5 years younger than Jacob deGrom. That's why. And Diaz is healthy and was the best closer in baseball. Yeah, it's going to seem like doom and gloom because, well, Jonathan, exactly the point. That's the whole point. He got a desperate team to do a desperate thing. Again, the Mets did this last year with Max Scherzer, right? The Mets weren't going to give a solid offer to Max Scherzer and he was going to sign with the Mets. The Mets had to overpay for Max Scherzer in years, right? Because what we heard was 2 years going to Max Scherzer. The Mets went the extra year and a couple of extra dollars. I'm sorry, the Mets gave a 4-year deal probably around $43 to $45 million per year. In tax purposes sense, it's around $37 million a year, what he got from Texas. And that's it. And you know what? I'm up. The only reason why I'm mad because deGrom was our guy. That was it. But you know what? We also lost with Jacob deGrom year after year after year. Remember what I talked about with Brandon Nimmo? Sometimes you have to change what hasn't been working. Jacob deGrom, no matter how good he's been, hasn't helped us get over the hump. Right? The same thing goes for Brandon Nimmo. Right? These are the years, if you want to go back from 2015 or starting from 2016, because that's when Jacob deGrom really took off, until now, the Mets didn't make the playoffs. The Mets made the playoffs once, the wild card round. And Jacob deGrom didn't even pitch in that wild card game because he was hurt. Well, Tylee, they might be fun to watch, but they look, they overpay for Jacob deGrom. Again, nobody's faulting. Look, no Texas Rangers fan is going to care that they overspent. Just like Mets fans didn't care they overspent on Max Scherzer. This is not about the Texas Rangers because the Mets and the Rangers have nothing to do with each other. Listen, now the Yankees have to deal with that with the balanced schedule where everybody plays everybody basically. The Yankees are going to face Jacob deGrom more than the Mets. That's it. So he's got to pitch against the Astros, the Mariners. You know, Muted, it is what it is. Listen, the Mets would have been stupid to give him a 5-year, the similar contract than what the Rangers did. Remember, it wasn't going to be $37 million per year for the Mets. The Mets would have had to go 5 years, possibly 6, for about $43 to $44 million per year because of the tax purposes. And again, he's going to a team that notoriously loses, right? Look, the Mets have been losers as well, right? But he chose a team that has not been successful, right? The Rangers made the World Series in the last, 10, 15 years? Well, the Mets have as well. So that's the whole thing, right? If you stick with a team that you were up with, that you came up with, you usually stay with that team for the most part. And he chose a team that wasn't better than the team he just left. You see what I'm saying? That's the whole point. Well, Dookie, that's fine. But there's no guarantee. See, this is the problem with a lot of people. We're talking about prospects here, right? Leiter Jr., Kumar Rocker. Okay, great. But there's no guarantee that those guys are going to be good. If they're bust, well, Jacob deGrom is going to live a nice Texas horseback lifestyle and not winning. That would be Jonathan. That would be a good move for the to replace Eflin with Tyon. That kind of makes sense. Well, yeah, Todd, I understand that, but Jacob deGrom didn't get good until he was 28, 29 years old either. You know what I'm saying? So now Rodon has an injury history too. Absolutely. But at the same time, the last 2 years, he's been very, very good and he's been healthy for the most part. You know, if you want to go with Rodon and deGrom the last 2 years, who's been healthier? I'd rather give me a guy that pitches 30 starts. Jay, I have no idea, buddy. You know, I don't know what the hell's going on. You know, nobody expected the Rangers to be in the mix anymore for Jacob deGrom. So whatever stories you're hearing about Aaron Judge, I don't know anymore. Because if Aaron Judge only had the Giants and the Yankees as the only two suitors, wouldn't you think he would have made a decision by now? So, again, what was it? Joel Sherman on MLB Network about a half hour ago just said that the Mets are going to make an offer to Aaron Judge. So who the hell knows? I don't know what the hell is going to happen. Like, The Giants and the Jets are good this year when nobody expected them to be good this year. I don't know what the hell's going on with New York sports anymore. I really have no idea. The Knicks didn't trade for Donovan Mitchell. The Knicks are garbage. They didn't trade for the superstars that they were trying to go for. The Mets and the Yankees could lose their iconic player of the past 6, 7 years, right? Just think, Aaron Judge and Jacob deGrom could both be out of New York by the end of the winter meetings. One's already gone. You know, like, what the hell? And it could have nothing to do with the teams not offering them a hell of a lot of money or a great contract. The Yankees could offer Aaron Judge 9 years, $350 million. And which Yankee fan is going to say that's a bad offer? If he takes, I'm telling you, Judge is going to do the same thing deGrom did. Now, I think Judge, I don't know with Judge because the Judge, I think, likes New York, but he also can go home, you know, so it's kind of a iffy feeling. Bravos, the winter meeting ends on next Thursday. Mike, that's on another level. Again, he's a Florida guy, right? He's that, you know, country boy mentality, right? The middle of Florida, right? Likes his space, likes the quietness. There you go. You know, so again, this has nothing to do with the Mets going crazy. Yeah. My dad just texted me, by the way. So my dad goes, there goes deGrom. Oh, well, 5 years, 185 million. See? My dad just texted me. Like, this is no joke. And he sent me the football picks that we do our bets with. See? That's my dad right there. So, listen. Again, me and my dad had this conversation, right? For the last 2 weeks. We even talked about 4 years, the max with Jacob deGrom. So that's why nobody's mad. You're going to be mad because of the fact that the Mets and Jacob deGrom, that's our guy. All right, so Tino said something about Verlander. Oh, so that was the notification I got. Thank you, Mike. Was it Mike? Robert, sorry about that. Somebody tweeted, happy I didn't spend any stubs on Jacob deGrom in the MLB The Show. People are really going after Jacob deGrom now. Listen to this. deGrom is probably going to pull a Syndergaard and dodge his start against the Mets. All right, hold on. All right, so Michael Mayer, Mets memorized, another guy that is a really good writer as well. He says this: the Mets have already talked with Verlander, Rodon, and Senga, so I would expect them to move quickly to ensure they get one of the top options available. There you go. That's one thing. People are talking about Judge to the Mets now. It's a possibility. You never know. Morning beer, but listen, buddy, I'm telling you, it's going to go down. I'm telling you. Like I was just telling everybody earlier, Syndergaard used the Mets and Matz used the Mets last year to get a better offer elsewhere and never came back for a counteroffer with the Mets. And they got Scherzer and Bassett because of it. It's going to be similar. Well, Jay, right now we have a lot of free agent bullpen arms. 3 guys in our bullpen are free agents right now. I'm not too worried about the bullpen. You can get your bullpen arms. I'm not worried about that. Todd, no, because it's a business. They offered him a contract. deGrom never. If deGrom wanted to be a Met, he would have went back with the Rangers offer to be respectful to the Mets, who paid you while you were hurt, by the way, and says, hey, this is what the Rangers offer me. Can you match it? I'll be a Met. He didn't do that. So clearly he wanted to leave. He got the 5th year that he wanted and didn't even bother. So the hell with Jacob deGrom, all right? Jacob deGrom should get booed when he goes to Citi Field. You know why? Because it's not like Jose Reyes where the Mets didn't even make him an offer, right? Zach Wheeler, same thing. Zach Wheeler didn't get booed at Citi Field. You know why? Because the Wilpons didn't offer Zach Wheeler a contract. In this case, Steve Cohen Again, you're gonna hear the contract come out, most likely. It's probably a 4-year deal around the same amount of money that the Rangers offered. Like, probably more. Like I said, it's probably gonna be around 40 to 44 million around per year. So that's the whole thing right there. And again, Steve Cohen tweeted right after Jacob deGrom signed that he wished Jacob deGrom well, and now it's time to move on. This is planned, that they're ready. They already had the plan B ready. So this is not, they were shocked by this. Well, Tali, it's not being salty. It's just a fact. Like, what are you going to do? Right? Jacob deGrom clearly didn't go back to the Mets to get a counteroffer. The same thing Syndergaard and Mats did. They did not go back to the Mets to match or make it better. Yeah, exactly, Boiko. Exactly. 100%. And that's the thing. You can't kill it. Yep, Todd, that's it. There was a photo of all the guys from 2015. What are you going to do? Again, if it was a 4-year deal, Mets fans would have been more mad. But it clearly wasn't. The Mets clearly gave a 4-year deal, and deGrom got the 5th year. All right, guys, sorry. I'm just getting the tweets are rolling up. Yeah, here we go, guys. According to Martino, Jacob deGrom's agent didn't involve the Mets in the process as he was negotiating with the Rangers. He didn't want to be here. There you go. Puma. Mets are viewing it as a positive that deGrom signed early, allowing them to pivot in the starting pitcher market with high caliber arms still available. There you go. So the Mets, deGrom wasn't even negotiating with the Mets. The Mets gave him an offer. He never went back to the Mets to negotiate. That's it. Oh, well. All right, hold on. I think Morosi just tweeted. John Morosi a minute ago, as I mentioned on MLB Network, the Mets options now include overwhelming the Brewers on the trade for Burns or Woodruff, or competing for Rodon in an expensive free agent market. So again, the Mets are going to do something. It's simple. This gives them $40 million more to work with this offseason that they were going to give deGrom. And again, let's go back to this, right? What have the Mets won with Jacob deGrom, right? With the injuries and as good as he was, he didn't get us over the top, right? Getting two guys that are worth about the same amount of money, like that extra $40 million is added to what the Mets, people thought the Mets were going to spend about $100 million. They're around what, $75 million from the top tax threshold now. So people were expecting that Cohen to spend about $100 million extra this year. That's increased now without Jacob deGrom. So is this including 2 pitchers now? Is this a Verlander Senga, Rodon Senga, and still going after a big time batter too? We'll see. Dookie, exactly my point. Look, it's not always about the injuries, because I still think the Mets wanted Jacob deGrom, but all these reports are coming out, right? All these reports are coming out. Jacob deGrom wasn't negotiating with the Mets. He got the offer from the Mets and was negotiating with the Rangers. So clearly Jacob deGrom didn't want to be there. What are the Mets supposed to do at that point? Go on their hands and knees and says, we'll give you 7 years? Clearly, deGrom did not want to be here. That's a fact. I don't want a player. I don't care how good you are. If you don't want to be here, you can kiss my ass. All right? This is New York. All right? You don't want to be here. We don't want you here. That's it. Yeah, Grant, exactly. Cano's contract last year of his contract comes off the books after 2023. So that's more money off the books. I'm telling you guys, Steve Cohen is going to go absolutely ape shit this now. Now, if we got Jacob deGrom, I can see him being a little bit more mellow. But you saw what he did last year when Mats and Syndergaard screwed him. Right? He went to get Scherzer, went to get Bassett. And that's where we are now. It's very similar to what happened. Syndergaard and Mets did not go back to the Mets and negotiate a counteroffer. They signed with the other team. They got more. They didn't even wait. They signed. Same thing with deGrom. deGrom got we heard a week and a half ago that the Mets offered Jacob deGrom a contract. We didn't know what it was for. But we assume now with the Rangers offer that it was at least a 4-year deal or probably a 4-year deal. Money probably per year is probably around $40 to $44 million. That's it. Jacob deGrom negotiated with the Rangers with the Mets offer. He did not go back to the Mets. Clearly did not want to be here. I don't want a guy. I don't care if you're Jacob deGrom, Babe Ruth, Mike Piazza, Tom Seaver. If you don't want to be a Met, we don't want you here. And I can assure you that's every other. If Aaron Judge leaves and goes to the Giants for a number that was close to the Mets and he took an extra year, close to the Yankees, and he took that extra year from the Giants, he clearly didn't want to stay a Yankee. T-Bird, baby. Listen, my boy T-Bird. T-Bird, are you going tomorrow to the QBC? Or you didn't make up your mind yet? I got to know. I want to make sure I see you tomorrow if you're there. Yo, like I said, guys, it's Bolikwa. Thank you. Beautiful. Love that comment. I got to throw that up there. Diaz wanted to be a Met and he showed it. Exactly. Right? The numbers were good. Both of them wanted each other and they signed. The Diaz signed. He didn't waste no time. deGrom clearly got the offer from the Mets and went to the Rangers and started negotiating. Didn't even bother coming back to the Mets for a counteroffer. That just shows you how much he did not want to be in New York. F him. T-Bird, it sucks. But you know what? He didn't want to be here. The reports were he negotiated with the Rangers after he got the offer from the Mets. He never went back to the Mets for a counteroffer. So he didn't want to be here. So he can take his simple man song, his injury-prone ass, and his 2 Cy Youngs and go to Baseball Siberia in the AL West. Right? Cano did it. A-Rod did it. And where did that get them? It got them traded a couple of years later. Yeah, Mike, that's another good comment. I got to throw that one up there too. Absolutely. Look at it. Yeah, he pulled the Trevor Bauer. Exactly. Remember, all indications were Trevor Bauer was going to be a Met. The Mets offered him a big contract. He didn't want to come to the Mets. He didn't want to come to New York. He wanted to be in California. He took the Mets offer and went to LA, and they signed him. Again, thank God, but still. Exactly, T-Bird, 100%. So, T-Bird, you going to the QBC tomorrow? Tyler, we are. Look, you can't be excited that you lost a pitcher that was a guy who came up with your team. Like, you can't be excited. That's not fair, right? You're disappointed because he came up through your system. He was our guy. But I can assure you the Mets are not Mets fans are happy they didn't go to that length in years. That's idiotic. I'm sorry. For a guy who's been injured the last couple of years, who's pitched, 30 games in 2 years? You can't give him that many years and be okay with it. Bingo. I wouldn't mind that. I've been talking about Turner all day, T-Bird. All day. All day. Well, Teddy, I don't even think you have to go that much. He might get that much, to be honest with you. But again, there you go. Right? Carlos Rodon is 6 years younger. I don't. Is he 6 years younger? Yeah, exactly, T-Bird. And listen, do you want to, Jacob? Hold on, guys. SNY is talking. Listen up.
Let's look at it as like you can want that, but let's see if the market dictates that. Certainly, they were never going to go to 5 years. I don't think the Mets were even going to go 4. But that 80 they would have done if it was 2. I think they would have even done it if it was 3. But that would have been in the spirit of just keeping a homegrown guy around. There was really no rational baseball reason to give 2022 Jacob deGrom Max Scherzer money, nor is there a rational baseball reason, again, to give him 5 years, which the Rangers just did. So, Mets dodged a bullet really here, I think, in terms of being.
I agree with Andy Martino, and I don't. We dodged a bullet, I think.
What has been an injured pitcher over the past couple of years, an exorbitant amount of money.
Yes, he only made 11 starts.
Me neither, T-Bird.
He missed the first 4 months. He made 26 starts over the last couple of years. All of that having been said, when he was at his best and he was on the mound, he provided a level of excitement and energy inside Citi Field that nobody has been able to match. When he would come out and a simple man would play, and then he'd start to mow people down. Listen, I get it. He wanted to make as much money as he possibly could, wanted to go someplace maybe he felt a little bit more comfortable. But I'm going to miss what he brought to the mound with the New York Mets and the excitement. And every time, listen, he never threw a no-hitter with the Mets, but every time he stepped to the mound, you thought, is this going to be the game that it's going to happen? Is there going to be a
I agree.
game? Is there going to be a no-hitter? I don't think we can minimize. Maybe they have dodged a bullet here and able to move the franchise forward, Andy. But I think we're all going to miss what he brought to the mound at Citi Field when he was out there and healthy.
Gary, I'm glad you brought that up from that perspective, because doing the job that I do, you can get caught a little bit up in the rationality of things, because that's what I'm talking to every day is agents and executives and people who are thinking these things through, like what makes sense in terms of value. But certainly, when you saw deGrom at his best out there, like for all the days leading up to his start, I could be hearing, oh, he doesn't want to be here. Oh, this isn't a great culture fit. Just let him go. And then you see him pitch at his best, and you're like, oh, okay, keep him. I get it. I mean, when he's out there, it's transcendent. When he's out there and healthy and good. Last year, he could only do it for 90 or so pitches at a time before he really turned into a different guy. You don't know what that's going to look like going forward. I mean, look, maybe he's going to be great. I don't want to write him off here. We don't know. No, we should be humble enough to know that we can't predict that.
Exactly,
yeah. Probably.
But he is right in this situation about
I'm not
deGrom.
going to call him one of the best pitchers in the history of the game because he didn't have nearly enough run for that. But on a given day, could he do something that no pitcher in the history of the game could quite do? Absolutely. And that is an entertainment factor that we will miss. Matt Harvey was almost that good for a couple of years, too. As George Harrison said, all things must pass.
No, that's true. Harvey had a relatively short run, though. When you look at deGrom, it was 9 years with the Mets. And as I said, 2014 Rookie of the Year, helped them get to the World Series in 2015. And then the back-to-back Cy Young Awards in 2018 and 2019. He had a $1.70 for an ERA in 2018. And a couple of years ago, before he got hurt, he was putting up numbers that were historic. I mean, they were astronomical, the sort of things he was doing on the mound out at Citi Field. And so, yes, the body of work was a little shorter than you would need to say this is the greatest pitcher of all time. But when he was at his best in a Mets uniform, I'm not sure in my lifetime, Andy, I've seen anybody better.
I don't think anybody has. I really think that when he was throwing 101, 102 with that low to mid-90s slider and dominating, missing bats, no one in the history of the game ever quite did that. I mean, you hear about Koufax with a high buzzing fastball and that lethal hook that he would throw. Maybe that
possibly T-Bird.
Also a fairly short run. Koufax did it long enough to get to the Hall of Fame.
As soon as this comes off, we'll start talking for a couple more minutes.
So he's got to do it a little more. Maybe he will down in Texas. But I think what we're talking about here, Gary, and agreeing on is the moment, the individual game. And yeah, it wasn't just a year or two. You're right. Of course, he was a Met for the better part of a decade, at his very best for several years. And when he was going out there doing that, we talked to players. They've never seen anything like it, one of the greatest of all time. I'm just saying that the length of the body of work doesn't put him in that conversation career-wise.
No, I would agree. He was not on the mound enough. Again, it was 9 years, but he's missed significant time with injuries. We thank you, Andy. It is our SNY MLB insider, Andy Martino, joining us on this night. I do want to go back to you here, Sal. And by the way, one of the things I was thinking about right now, this is sort of the end of an era when you think Syndergaard's gone, Wheeler's gone.
All right, Sal Licata is here with Gary Apple.
Jacob deGrom is gone. That was that core four, right, that was going to bring the Mets to the promised land. They got close in 2015. They made a couple of playoff runs, but that is that gives me a little bit of pause on a night like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do look back fondly on those memories of what these guys were supposed to be, what they were, getting to that 2015 World Series you mentioned, a great postseason run, watching deGrom win the back-to-back Cy Young Awards. You know, for my money, he's the best pitcher that I've ever seen. I know it was only a couple of years there, but, I mean, the guy was unbelievable. He was unbelievable. He was near perfect as a pitcher, Gary. That's something that we haven't seen very often. However, I do think it makes it a little bit easier now to move on from deGrom. And you can look back and remember all that stuff, sure. But when we last saw him, he wasn't at his best. This was not 2018, 2019 Cy Young Jacob deGrom. He got hit in Atlanta. He got touched up in the wild card game. I know they won that game, and he was okay. He was better than the other two. But it's not like they're losing peak vintage Jacob deGrom. And you have the comfort knowing that they can replace him. So it is sad. You look back, of course, as a Met fan, Met fans are hurting. And this is going to hurt for a while.
There is no doubt about it.
Verlander, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're going to hurt for a while because Jacob deGrom was their guy, homegrown. You know how much fans love that. This is a sad day. However, it is just the beginning for the Mets under Steve Cohen. They will.
I agree with that.
I would think that's the case. By the way, it's worth noting here, he only made 11 starts this year. And as you said, at the end of the year, he was not vintage Jacob deGrom. I'm not positive that there's not vintage
Boricua, exactly.
still in there, and we'll find out with the Texas Rangers in 2023. Let's welcome Steve Gelbs, our reporter.
All right,
to the
get everybody in here.
Now,
Steve Gelbs
thanks
down.
for joining us again here. So when you heard this news tonight, what was your initial reaction?
Initial reaction was stunned and not surprised at all, if that makes any sense.
It does.
You know, as you guys have alluded to a lot tonight, if you're in this industry and you're talking to people as we do on a daily basis out at the ballpark, whether it was an agent, whether it was front office, whether it was coaches, whether it was players, you really couldn't find anybody that expected Jacob deGrom to be back with the Mets after this season. The expectation was he will opt out, he will go elsewhere. The reasoning, we don't really know. It's not something that Jake shared with any media people for sure. You know, I haven't been so sure that he shared his reasoning with some of his teammates and others that seem to have that inkling. He just plays things very close to the vest. So, you know, again, in your head, because of everything that you hear, you expect Jacob deGrom will not be a Met after this season. And then the tweet comes out, and the Texas Rangers have a picture that they've photoshopped of Jacob deGrom in a Rangers uniform, and it just looks wrong. And when it happens, it's still stunning. So, the heart said that it probably there's got to be a way it wasn't going to happen, but the head knew that it probably was ultimately going to be what happened, and it ultimately did.
All right, I do want to go back to ask you about this, Steve, because I mentioned a short time ago that I said at the beginning of this whole process, he's going to take the most money. Whoever's going to pay Jacob deGrom the most money, he's going to go. And
JS, I agree, buddy.
He got the same deal from the Mets. He would have taken this from the Mets. I know there's that feeling out there that maybe he didn't want to be here. Maybe New York was not the place for Jacob deGrom, and that he's going to be more comfortable in Texas. Are you of the belief that if the Mets had, and I don't think they were going to give him 5 years, but if they had, do you think he would have still been, again, I know it's just conjecture, but what do you think? Do you think he would have come back for that sort of money?
I really don't know, Gary. I really don't know. I don't think this was simply about the money. I don't. Listen, the 5 years with a 6-year option, that's where I'm giving that to him.
No, I
think everybody in the industry is shocked that he got 5 years. I heard going into this offseason that, maybe one team would go to that 4th year and then he would take that. I think everybody expected a 3-year deal is the max that deGrom is getting. So the fact that he potentially got double that, it's a fait accompli at that point. He's going where they're giving him 5 years with a 6th-year option. But if it was a shorter-term deal and the Mets offered him the most money, I don't know if he would take it. The one thing that you have to keep in mind, Gary, is that, and we heard Andy talk about this earlier, the reporting that deGrom really didn't give the Mets an opportunity to match the money, to match the length. And when you talk about this current Mets organization under Steve Cohen, the one thing that you have to check in on, if it's only about the money, is how much is Steve Cohen willing to pay? Because there is no organization that can outspend Steve Cohen and the Mets right now if they want a player. So I don't think that it was just about the money, because if it was just about the money, the assumption would be that deGrom would get an offer from somewhere else, and then he would go back to the Mets and say, okay, can you beat them? And it doesn't, we don't know, but it doesn't sound like that's what happened.
No, I would agree with you on that, Steve, but there's no way the Mets were going to give him 5 years at $185 million. I am thoroughly convinced of that.
No way.
Right.
No.
Right.
No way. I thought that they were going to give him, make an offer 3 years with an AAV that was just north of what they gave Scherzer. I thought maybe, 3 years between 145 and 150 would be the highest they would go. But I will say this, Sal, you said nor should they. And I know a lot of the discussion, I heard what Sal was saying, what Andy was saying, what you were saying, Gary, is about how the organization will probably be better for this, that if they gave him that length, that term, it would not end up being a good deal. And I think that is a justifiable take. I think that it's rational to look at what happened here and say the Mets will be fine. I mean, listen, Gary, you said that he only started 11 games for them last year. The Mets won 6-5 in those games. So they won 101 games this year. Only 6 of them were with Jacob deGrom on the mound. This is a team that can still win a lot of ball games with or without Jacob deGrom, and they're going to go out and they're going to get, whether it's a Verlander or a Rodon and another, good starting pitcher, I would expect that they still make those moves. So this team moving forward will be fine. But I do think sometimes in these moments that whether it's a fan base, whether it's, analysts like us, we're quick to jump on, well, they probably made the right call. They're going to be fine. They'll be better for it. And I think that that's just a separate entity. I think it's important to take a step back right now and recognize what he was and the devastation, quite frankly, from an emotional perspective that most Mets fans are likely feeling right now. Because for my money, there was nothing in the game of baseball like Jacob deGrom. Absolutely nothing in his peak during this run with the Mets that was better to watch than Jacob deGrom taking the mound. And I don't even want to say from a fan's perspective, from a reporter's perspective, in my role, I get to speak to the players, not just the players that play with him, but the players that play against him.
All right, guys. So that's basically, they're going over the same stuff again. So, again, more reports are saying, people are asking reporters questions. Was the reports true that he was deep in finalizing the contract before the Mets could counteroffer? Reporter said yes. Stevie Mac. Sorry, buddy. But listen, guys, look, it's frustrating because Dower's our guy. But we've all talked about this for months, that there is no way that anybody could be okay with the Mets going past 4 years. We all thought the max was going to be 4 years, right? And it wasn't. And I'm sorry, I cannot give a 5th guaranteed year plus a 6-year option and think that's okay. You could talk about the state tax and everything like that. The Mets could have gave $45-46 million a year and average out the same amount per year that the Rangers gave him, because he's making $3 million more than what he was making with the Mets with the current contract he was under. And listen, that's $40 million off the books now that the Mets thought would have been on the books for the next 2 years. That's $40 million the Mets can spend now with the money they already thought they were going to spend. People thought the Mets were going to spend between $90 and $100 million this year, like they did last year with the 4 signings they made with Escobar, Canna, Marte, and Scherzer. Well, they're going to spend more than that now because they just got $40 million off the books. So could they spend $130-40 million? Yeah. Why not? If the Texas Rangers last year can spend $500 million on Simeon and Seager, the Mets can do that too. And this was exactly what Syndergaard and Matz did last year. Taking the Mets offer, going to another team, and never coming back to the Mets to counter offer. deGrom did the same exact thing. deGrom didn't want to be here. Now the Mets got to pivot. There was some reports now that the Mets are going to be looking at Corbin Burns of the Brewers for a trade, looking at Rodon, looking at Verlander, Senga. They're going to get one of those guys, possibly two. That's where we're going to look at right now, right? You get one of those guys, you're basically in the same spot in your rotation. Again, nobody's going to tell you that Rodon is better than deGrom, or Verlander is better than deGrom, or Burns is better than deGrom. But they just said it. In 11 starts last year, the Mets were 6-5. They were basically a 500 team with deGrom. You're telling me that Rodon can't be just as good as that? And that was with games where deGrom wasn't necessarily deGrom. So, again, you're not going to kill the Mets here because the Mets did what they're going to do. You know they weren't going to get outspent. But if the player doesn't want to be here and use the Mets offer to go somewhere else, you can't do nothing. You can't get mad as a Mets fan. So let's see what's going to look. QBC, if you know, tomorrow, the Queens Baseball Convention that's every year around this time is tomorrow. So now all the SNY panels, Salicata, Gary Apple are all going to be there. The Mets hot stove is going to be there with Jim Duquette, and all those guys are going to be there. A lot of talking points tomorrow. And I will, when I come live on Sunday, or I'll put on my community page, how was the vibe around the QBC? I'll put that up there tomorrow on my community page. I'll type it out there on my community page to let you guys know what's the feeling around Met fans. I'm going to interview a few people for the channel. I got my hold on, give me a second. Where is it? Damn it! Sorry guys, give me a second. Where the hell is it? Well, I don't have it on me right now, but I got Bluetooth mics that are set up that I'm going to be speaking to fans about it for the channel. It's going to be a full video about Mets fans' reactions and what they want. That's going to get posted on the channel in the coming days. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to get the vibe around. There it goes. I know I had it. Yeah, see, I got my my Bluetooth microphones ready to go. So that's what we're going to do. So with that said, guys, let's see what the Mets do. MB, absolutely. The Mets are going to strike. Clearly, Steve Cohen tweeted, if you look back last year when Syndergaard and Matz did the same thing Jacob deGrom did, he tweeted, it's time to move on. And there you go. Oh, morning beer. Oh, man. Well, hopefully the mother and the daughter will be healthy, and congratulations, by the way, any moment. So I'm assuming you're at the hospital right now. So there you go, guys. So the morning beer, congratulations. Hopefully everybody stays healthy, and a couple of days from now you're out of the hospital and home and well. With that said, guys, let's see what the Mets are going to do. You assume, just like MB just said with that comment, they're going to strike, and they're going to strike rather soon. Again, we can wake up tomorrow. I'll be driving to QBC, and something might happen tonight for that matter. It's only 9:30, right? So here we go, guys. Let's see what the Mets do. Everybody have a good night. All right, good, man. I hope she's okay and everything goes well. So with that said, guys, we'll see what happens with the Mets. The Mets are on the clock now. There's no doubt about that. It's either going to be a really disappointing offseason, or it's going to be a drastic change. And again, just because deGrom is gone, and like I said, oh, great, yeah, I forgot about that. That's right. The QBC starts at 10 o'clock as well. So interesting. There you go, Grant. That's what I like. Make that money, buddy. So with that said, guys, you can't expect different results. If the Mets were to sign deGrom and sign Nimmo, don't expect different results with the same team. Now this team is probably going to look a lot different, hopefully with better results, not record-wise, but making the playoffs and doing more damage in the playoffs. So with that said, guys, everybody have a great night. I will let you know what's the vibe around QBC on my community page tomorrow morning around 12 o'clock or so. And I will be posting videos from the QBC about interviews from Met fans about how they feel about Jacob deGrom and what the Mets are going to do. So with that said, guys, everybody have a good night. Go Team USA tomorrow. Beat the Netherlands. Everybody have a good night. As always, let's go Mets. Guys, the final piece of the rotation from 2015 is gone. Jacob deGrom, 5 years, $185 million to the Texas Rangers, and an option for a 6th year can be worth over $220 million. Everybody have a good night. Let's go Mets. I'll see you next time, guys. Good night.
You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year for all your Mets here.